This one just hurts, and not just from the numerous new injuries. For the players to go through all that training and all the ups and downs of the very long season and then have it all end just like this. However, word is that after a bit of a dark winter, spring will arrive and all things will be new and green and gold yet again. Can't wait. So let's talk about the game and wrap up the season next on your Packers Fan Podcast.
Greetings, Packers fans. I'm Scott Clark, and you might know me from the Gaming Outsider podcast. It is hard to believe that just like that, the Packers season is over. We all had high hopes for the postseason this year. Well, most of us did, but alas, it is what it is. Regardless, I'm happy to be here for the last time this season with my good buddy to recap the tragic end to the Packers' attempted road to the Super Bowl. And I'm glad it's actually happening because it almost didn't happen with everything that's happening over there in California. So good to see you, sir.
Absolutely. Very happy to have electricity, even though it's breezy out. I'm safe from the fires. And podcasting since 2005, I'm Wayne Henderson, and I'm not really looking forward to how long the Packers offseason is going to be. It's kind of like we're signing our friends' yearbooks at the end of the year and saying things like, have a nice summer, stay cool, and all of that stuff. You know, it has that vibe to it.
Well, except that, when you're saying see you next year or hello to summer, have a nice summer, that's always high good feelings like, hey, school's out for summer. But that's not the feeling I'm getting right now, man.
Right. It is not a one-to-one comparison, that's for sure. So wrapping up the 14th season of your Packers Fan Podcast with our 317th episode. Scott, it's been a memorable season of podcasting with you, to be sure. Thanks again for joining in on all the fun. What do you say we cover the Eagles-Packers game? And the Eagles had more points than us, so yeah.
Yeah. Well, and we're also thankful to share some great listener feedback as well. And we'll also talk about some season-ending items for the show. Yeah, this is the last one of the season. My prediction said that this was going to happen, but in the back of my mind, I was kind of hoping otherwise. So
right, this is so abrupt, Scott. So abrupt.
Very much so. But let's get into it. We did have some leaders in the Eagles-Packers games. Numbers weren't great this week. We'll get into that in a little more detail with the highs and lows. But Jordan Love was the highest passer, 20 for 33, 212 yards, 0 TDs, and 3 interceptions. Holy cow, that one hurts. His passer rating was only 41.5. Haven't seen numbers that low in quite a while. Rushing, obviously, Josh Jacobs was the leader, 18 carries for 81 yards. He did have 1 touchdown. Receiving, Jaden Reed had 4 catches for 46 yards. And on the defensive side of the ball, Quay Walker had 8 tackles, 4 of them all on his own. So the defense was really the key to this game. The one of the positives that we have from this. Quay Walker was everywhere. Edgerrin Cooper was doing all kinds of things. Just the offense just could not get it together, but we'll get into it. So let's kick things off with some bright spots a little bit. Well, no, actually, it's not even bright spots. Well, the opening drive, Eagles won the toss and deferred. I'm like, all right, great. They gave us the ball. We're going to get first blood. This is going to be awesome.
Right. Yeah.
Lo and behold, Nixon fumbles in the return, and the refs called a recovery by Philadelphia. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. No way. So they showed the replay, and I was like, oh, it's fine. He had control. He was down by contact. Not a problem. Whew, dodged a bullet there. But the play was reviewed by the booth, and the call stood. I'm still flabbergasted by this one. I don't know how it could have been more clear cut. I really don't. And because of this, Philadelphia got to start on our 28-yard line, which was not a great start to this game.
That is an understatement, Scott. I don't think I've seen 2 absolutely blatant and bullcrap calls on a single play before, let alone the very first play of the game. Not only did that replay show that we recovered the ball, but the inept officials, they should have thrown a flag for the brutal helmet-to-helmet hit against Keyshawn Nixon on the play. I mean, how are you going to not fumble the ball with that kind of helmet-to-helmet happening? And on a side note, in the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community group, which you can find at packerscommunity.com. Listener Dan posted a great discussion leader about whether officiating is worse than ever in the NFL and elsewhere. Be sure to check out his insights, but also some of the great thoughts from other listeners that are in the comments section. There's a lot of good conversation happening as we record this. So
for sure. And please understand that, when I talk about the calls, I'm not, my goal is not to sound like a bitter Betty with that, because the officiating hurt us, but that is not the reason we lost this game. The Packers beat themselves on this one for certain. And I'm not just talking about Packers games. I've seen a lot of calls across the NFL this season that just seemed really, really questionable, and a lot of them were game changing. This one, I can't say it was game changing or not, but it definitely just deflated the Packers right out the gate. It was not a good way to start. It was like losing the toss on both the opening kickoff and the coming out of the half. So
yeah, and I'm not saying that the refs cost us that game. I'm just saying what a terrible way to start. It could not have been worse. And then after that rough start, the Packers defense started with the uphill battle. They allowed a solid run by Barkley. Then we stopped Barkley, but on the next play, it was a Jalen Hurts pass to Dotson. He had all the time in the world in the backfield. And next thing you know, the Eagles are up 7-0. It was like a gimme touchdown, to be sure.
For sure. And the other big highlight here is the one I already mentioned, but Green Bay's defense. They were really the only reason we were in this game at all, which it got away from us clearly. But we had multiple 3-and-outs, and they kept themselves off the field as much as possible. It was really great to see. I mean, that, how do you expect them to not get points when they're starting at our 28-yard line? Can't really fault them for that. That's not their fault. That's special teams' fault. But yeah, just over and over, 3-and-outs. Like, this is great. This is awesome. But again, the offense just couldn't get there. So kudos to the defense for showing up for all 4 quarters.
Indeed. There definitely was a highlight on offense, Scott. It was Josh Jacobs. He had an incredible run to close out the third quarter. It looked like 32 yards. They counted it as 31. And he should have been pulled down 20 yards before that. It was just an incredible effort. The man is a beast. He was ruled down at the 1-yard line. Very next play, we allowed him to run up the middle for the score because he earned it, Scott. And the extra point was good. We were down 16-10, and I thought, okay, after such a terrible start to the game, we are now going to dig out of the hole, and it's going to make the victory even sweeter. Right? Right?
Totally. That's where my mind was at. We're only 1 score down now going to the fourth quarter. This is where we're going to get redemption. But unfortunately, that's where the good news ends. I just have one more thing to say with that run. I feel like this year I've seen more players' shirts get stretched out to their limits.
Yes, the Under Armour or whatever it is. Yeah.
How long are those shirts? It's like, dude, that thing is resilient to not rip for how long that is. And it's not the only time. It's not just our players. It's throughout the league. I keep seeing that's the stretchy material. It's almost comical.
Indeed. It's kind of fun. And one of these days, I think we're going to find out what the limit is on how far it'll stretch.
Yeah, right. Well, like I said, that's where the good news ends. And the bad news, Jordan Love had this amazing streak of no touchdowns for like 5-6 games, something like that. And this was a brutal one. This was right at the start of the second quarter. This was his first interception in 409 snaps, which is crazy. Thankfully, the Packers D was able to force a 3-and-out, and the Eagles were also called for a false start, so they had to kick it back 5 yards further, and then Reed returned it to about the Green Bay 45-yard line. So look at me trying to be positive on that awful interception, but that just came at the worst time.
Another thing coming at the worst time is Brandon McManus picked the wrong game to miss his first ever postseason field goal attempt. The drive was pretty improved by the Packers, made it look like they were trying to get back into the game. Tucker Kraft took 2 snaps himself for first downs. And, 2 Tucker Kraft tush pushes in one series is one of the other true highlights of the game for me, even though the whole thing ended in, nothing because we missed the field goal. It wasn't even a super long one, 38 yards. And this was a little earlier in the game when the Eagles were still up 10-0, but it was like, really? This too?
Yeah, this is the time you decide to not be perfect. But hey, I still love McManus.
Oh, yeah, bring him back for sure.
Seriously. Love throws another interception in the final minute of the first half. Just didn't see the defender at all. Vaughn ran it all the way back to the 45 of Green Bay. That one, I was like, really, man, you haven't had one in weeks and you got two? That's not where it stops, but we'll get there in a second.
No. And Romeo Doubs, dude, he looked like he could be seriously hurt. He's obviously been on the concussion protocol for a while. He's been wearing the Guardian helmet and all of that, but on a play in the end zone, he landed on his head, neck area really awkwardly and was out of the game and had to really be helped into the locker room. I just hope he's going to be okay because that looked wicked.
It did. I mean, if you're going to get an injury like that, not that we want that to happen, but this is the time to get it at the end of the season when you've got the off season to recover. Hopefully it's not serious. I haven't heard any reports since the game to know the extent of that injury, but the crazy thing is like, it didn't look that nasty live. Like I was like, oh, he just fell. You know what I mean? I mean, he was going up and it was head down, but it just didn't look as crushing as I would have thought. But he's such a great player and been loving shouting his name for years now. And I wish him all the best and hope he's okay. Then the Packers basically gave Goddard a gimme TD in the third quarter. Jalen Hurts passed to him on a slant. Valentine just appeared to let him run right past him. Wound up being a 24-yard touchdown pass. The bright side was that the extra point was a miss, but the Eagles were still ahead 16-3 at this point.
Now, was that the play where after the defense went back on the sideline, Xavier McKinney, it looked like he was saying something to Valentine on the sideline like, dude, what were you thinking?
He was scolding him. It was kind of funny. But, that's tough love is something you got to do. That's part of being a good teammate is, pointing out your mistakes and constructive criticism and saying, look, dude, you got to be there for that because it just really not a good time to not be tackling, dude.
No. And then after last week with Watson going down and then Doubs down, it wasn't too much longer till Jaden Reed goes down with an injury. And it looked like a pretty clean tackle by the defender, just got hit on the shoulder area really hard. So between Watson, Doubs, and now Reed, Love is running out of receivers to throw to. And that's when I knew the gig was up.
Yeah, it wasn't really the actual dagger, but that felt like the dagger at the time. Like who else you're just going to throw to Kraft for the rest of the game? And then a stupid, unnecessary roughness penalty kept the drive alive for the Eagles. Nixon was flagged for tackling the runner way out of bounds. It was a pretty weak call. It was a legit call, but man, it was just like 5 yards outside, and it's one of those caught up in the moment, don't see the sideline. Worst part is that it kept the Eagles from facing a third down and instead gave them the first. Did wind up keeping them out of the end zone, but couldn't stop them from getting a field goal. So Eagles were extended their lead 19-10 at this point.
Rough night in Philly.
Yeah.
Rough night.
Brutal loss. But there's so many good things to be talking about. I know we kind of ended there talking about the negative things, but we had a lot of positive things to talk about from this game as well. I have a group of buddies. Most of them, I've talked about this every year. I got a group of Packers fans. I only know like two of them.
Okay.
But it's all a buddy of mine and his family and friends that are all Packers fans, and they join in. And one of them sent me a screenshot of, pulling a Wayne Henderson here and looking at the green and gold colored glasses. So here's what I got. We went from 9-8 in 2023 to 11-6 this season. That's an improvement. Became the first NFL team to have 800 wins. No other team has done that. We lost our beloved Aaron Jones, but gained the equally lovable and reliable Josh Jacobs. We watched Xavier McKinney record a record-setting 5 interceptions in 5 weeks. We enjoyed Malik Willis's reliability as a backup better than some team starters. Made our 37th trip to the postseason, the most of any team in the league. Pretty good for a fan-owned team from America's smallest sports market. Until next season, go Pack go. Look at me pulling a Wayne.
I like it. I like it. It's all good stuff. And, with the Vikings becoming the first ever 14-win team to lose in the wild card round, helped take a little bit of the sting off. But, yeah, that's motivating stuff. And the Packers still are the best of all time. And the future's bright. We just have to wait a while. I guess we'll get other stuff done.
I was hoping I was going to be good luck being on this podcast with you, Wayne. I've been doing this with you about 5 years now, and I'm like, maybe having a new host will bring some mojo to the Packers, and I really was hopeful that this was going to be the year, but sadly, it's not. So moving on.
Yeah, and the listener feedback, there's so many great comments coming our way that's going to help us just kind of come to grips with everything and look at other gems that can be found. So I kind of wanted to start it off looking towards the future with our weekly poll question, which, well, the season's over, so it's not weekly anymore, but it's in the Facebook group at PackersCommunity.com as well as on Twitter at Packers Fan Pod. Realistically, what should or could the Packers change so that next season will be better than this one? And asking people to add their option if it's not listed. And wow, did they? The original options were take away play calling from Matt LaFleur or acquire a true number 1 wide receiver or don't let injured players come back too soon. I mean, somebody's got to stand up and say, dude, no, I know you say you're ready. Don't come back just yet. And then we got a write-in vote, draft the best offensive lineman available to protect Love. That's from Garrett Stritzel. And then Bill Gardner added pass, rush, and training staff. What do you think, Scott? Any of those, or you got your own write-in vote at the last minute?
No, I don't have my own write-in vote. I think what we selected here was good. And I'm going to say my piece about Matt LaFleur. I do think he's made some questionable calls. I think he's relied too much on the deep throws in terms of play calling instead of relying on the quick slants and the screen passes and things that have been very successful for the Packers in the past. Now, I understand that each team is different season to season, but I would like to see some shifts in play calling. I'm not saying take it away from Matt LaFleur. We took it away from Aaron Rodgers, right? and we saw some improvement in that regard. I think LaFleur is a coach that learns from his mistakes. He is repeating some mistakes, but he's learning from others. So I'm not in the camp of a lot of people that are looking for LaFleur's head. This guy has put the Packers in the postseason a high number of times since he started. He's got the most wins of any coach in the first 6 seasons of any NFL coach. Like that, you can't argue that. I mean, and he's done all this with literally the youngest team in the NFL. That's nothing to overlook. So I'm not in the camp of overlooking that. So my pick is going to be to acquire a true number 1 wide receiver. And I don't say that to disparage our current wide receiver depth. We've got a lot of young receivers there. Unfortunately, a lot of them are hurt right now. And one in particular is like Mr. Glass. He's always hurt. So I think getting that one receiver that is super reliable for those short gains to get us the first down marker is going to be key. All these receivers that we've got, most of their notable plays were clutch plays. This is something I actually talked about on the At the 50 podcast, which I was a guest on last week. It's an Eagles podcast that actually invited both Wayne and I, but Wayne lost power due to the high winds out there. Had a really good time chatting with them, and I really do believe that the receivers we've got are more clutch receivers than move the sticks receivers. And I think getting that number 1 wide receiver, getting a star wide receiver, I would be surprised if our number one pick next year is not a wide receiver. It's due. we're due for a number one wide receiver pick. What do you think, Wayne?
All right. I like that. Well said. And I can't say it as well as you, but I'm also going to go with the acquiring of a true number one wide receiver, whether it's through the draft or all the early rumblings already. You know, the game just ended a couple days ago. T. Higgins or what's his name down in Florida? I'm drawing a blank. Sorry, I'm bad with names. And other people are talking about Davante Adams. So, you know, any of those things. But, you know, Davante's older now, so I just don't know. But let's go over the votes after you combine and average them out for Twitter/X as well as Facebook. 56% of the votes went with acquire a true number one wide receiver. 31% said take the play calling away from Matt LaFleur, please. 7% went with don't let injured players come back too soon. And then 3% for Garrett's write-in vote, draft the best O-lineman, and 3% for Bill Gardner's pass rush and training staff. So lots to think about.
Pretty much in agreement that we need a solid wide receiver. We've got a solid defense. Edgerrin Cooper is going to be a superstar. It just feels like he's a solid piece to that defense. I think Jordan Love is still in the growing pains phases. This is only his second. He played last year, right? You know, nobody was the best quarterback, you know, Hall of Fame quarterback their second season, second season of actually playing. So I'm seeing a large road ahead for him, especially if we can get some help on the offensive line there. So
yeah. And the receiver I was thinking about, Tyreek Hill.
Oh, there you go. We got some comments on the poll at the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook group. First off, Garrett Stritzel says, I think the draft and free agency will determine if this team moves forward or becomes the third or fourth best team in the NFC North for the next 10 years. The O-line needs a better center and guard for Love to have confidence to make reads. DB and linebackers needs upgrades to stay relevant also. Now, the last point is something I never thought I'd say. The wide receiver group needs serious help. Bill Gardner also commented and said, added pass rush because we give the opposing quarterback far too much time and training staff because our teams get injured far too much. Yeah, Love did not have a lot of time back there, but it seemed like every other quarterback did.
Yeah, so if Josh Jacobs can convince Packers management and everybody to come together and get Max Crosby from the Raiders, there you go. That can make a dent. Jared Mancini-Kerr said, I'm picking play calling, but if it starts worse and we get a few games into the season without improvement, give it back to LaFleur. Remember, McCarthy did this at one time. Can't remember which Packers season that was. And while McCarthy wasn't the greatest play caller, the alternative was worse, so he took control again.
Speaking of McCarthy, did you see the news this week
Yes.
that he was let go by the Cowboys? And I keep hearing murmurings of the Bears looking at him. Wouldn't that be interesting, facing McCarthy twice a year?
That would be. I don't want McCarthy to go to the enemy. But somebody was telling me, oh, no, you're going to love it. If he goes to the Bears, he'll be back on track with the new streak of victories. So, oh, well, thank you for those comments and your votes in the poll. Just wanted to do a quick reminder, you know, the Packers Fan Podcast, we always take a break after the season ends for the Packers until April when the NFL draft happens and the 2025 game schedules come out. You know, unless some unusually huge breaking news comes out, like we signed Tyreek Hill and Davante Adams and T. Higgins and Max Crosby all in the same week, we may need to do a breaking news episode of the podcast. So we will definitely be back. And of course, with the NFL draft being in Green Bay this year is going to make it that much more fabulous. I cannot go, but I know Dan Dyler's thinking of going, and we do have listeners in the area as well. Jesse may be trying to go. So there's going to be a lot to cover. It is something to consider for sure. Scott, are you thinking about it, driving on up?
I would love to. I just don't know how that works. Pricing and hotel stay. It's just going to be an insane place. But I feel like if I'm ever going to experience a draft, that'd be the time to do it. Moving on, we got some listener voicemails, emails, and comments. We got one from Dan Dyler. Saddle up. What's he got to say?
Go, 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 go. I can't even muster a proper go pack go after watching that FICO festival. What the heck was going on? I mean, from the opening kickoff, and I'll keep this part short and sweet. Terrible job by the officiating crew. We all saw it. We all know it. Nixon had that ball, and Oren Burks targeted, leading with the crown of his helmet. The right penalty wasn't called, even though they reviewed it. And when they do reviews, they're supposed to watch for penalties also. And they could also see clearly by that overhead review that Nixon regained control of the ball after he fumbled it, was on his back, and was being touched by the kicking team. That's down by contact, period, end of story. Then you got the very end of the game when, LaFleur and Jordan Love still wanted to play a hero ball, a home run ball. Bo Melton got pulled to the ground by the defensive back, but no, we're not going to throw a flag on that either. No big deal. But it was not the officiating crew. Don't get me wrong. They're not the ones that caused for this absolute pitiful loss to be had by our Packers and to end our season. That was 100% on the team. The defense did an amazing job, but the offense and the special teams, they might as well not even gotten on the plane, except for Josh Jacobs, who accounted for over 40% of the yards, and Tucker Kraft. The rest of the team, minus the defense, like I said, they just didn't show up. I mean, I get it. There was a lot of injuries. ESPN even listed the injuries. They said Dubs, Reed, Jenkins, Myers, and several other defensive players. They didn't even have enough space, I guess, to list all the other players that were injured. If I had to wrap up this season in one word, disappointing. After the way they finished last year on a high note, we go into this next season with 3 straight losses, and Jordan Love looking like a Danny Dimes out of New York. He's not looking good, Jordan. I don't know if he's overanalyzing things like his head coach is doing. But yeah, we were 0 for 6 versus playoffs teams, and we were literally a Brenton Cox fingertip away from going 0-6 in our own division. Could you imagine getting beat by the Bears twice in a season? It's bad enough once with our, half of our starters on the sideline. But yeah, moving forward, let's talk about some good stuff. Or at least not bad stuff. I think Matt LaFleur, he needs to turn his focus on being a head coach and give up his play card to the offensive coordinator, whoever that happens to be next year. There's been some talk about some moving around, and maybe our offensive coordinator may go to another team, get hired on as a head coach as a possibility. We don't know till it happens, but we'll cross that road when we get to it. But I really think that he needs to give up the play calling to another coach and focus on the team, because he's an amazing tactician. He needs to get his players ready. He's awesome at coming up with new plays and schemes to befuddle the defenses that we play. And I'm looking forward to another season next year and having him take another step, because this is his first year as a head coach, and we all grow as we get more experience in whatever field that we're in. It looks like we were not going to be returning Jair Alexander. He's only played 20 of the last 34 games. And, the old saying goes, your best ability is your availability. And when you're not available and you're getting paid $27.5 million, that's an easy business decision, in my opinion. And he was even interviewed. He said he had nothing good to say, no comment. And he just looked really dejected after when he got interviewed, and I think it was yesterday. Now, we're in a very favorable salary cap position because we no longer have Rodgers' contract. We no longer have Bakhtiari's contract. If Jair Alexander gets cut, we'll no longer be on the hook for his contract. So it really opens up a lot of possibilities for other players. I'd love to see us get a couple of veteran free agents. I'd love to see T. Higgins come over and be a true number one wide receiver. It's done the experiment, not having a number one wide receiver. I think we see the fruits of that experiment not really work very well. I just really think we do need a number one wide receiver, somebody that Jordan Love is comfortable with and that he can always count on to throw to, like a Tucker Kraft. But, Tucker Kraft is a tight end and not a wide receiver. But now we can turn our focus, like I said, to next season, the 2025 season. It's going to be an awesome one, starting off with the combine right here in my backyard. If anybody wants to come out to the Combine, I'd love to meet up with you. I definitely plan on going there for at least 2 days of it, probably. And then in April, the end of April, the draft in Green Bay. If you, like I said before, if you're on the fence about it, don't be on the fence. Jump over that fence and go to the draft. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be so much fun. And of course, Paxboro will be there. And then the official schedule release, which always takes way too long, in my opinion, because I want to start planning going to these games, especially. It looks like we might be going to Ireland to face the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that would be, wow, bucket list. Anyways, that's all I got from here. Miss you guys. It was an awesome season. Loved being able to meet with so many of you. Scott, your wife Stephanie, Megan, Caleb, and Kathy. Can't wait to do it all over again next season. Go, 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 Pack, go!
Go Pack, go indeed. My favorite thing about Dan's voicemail is that he started out down in the dumps, and then slowly that energy just started picking back up and back up and back up, and looking forward to next year. So that was awesome. Yeah, I agree with him that the defense and then Kraft and Jacobs showed up, and it felt like everybody else didn't. I've already said my piece on the floor. I'm not ready to hand all that over altogether. I think he will change things up. But I really loved his point about the salary cap position. With him gone, with Aaron Rodgers gone, and Bakhtiari gone, that's going to leave a lot of room for some interesting things to happen. I mentioned the draft, but I wasn't even really thinking about looking outside of the Packers organization at some other teams. If it's still Gutekunst making the calls there, he made a good one with Josh Jacobs. So hopefully he can do something similar on the receiving side of the ball, and we could be a double threat instead of an awesome running team that relies too much on the pass.
Indeed. And picking up Xavier McKinney was another stroke of genius that worked out really well. So maybe Gutekunst has found a new way of doing things. We'll have to see what he does in the offseason. And yeah, although Jordan Love wasn't looking all that good, Dan, I wonder how much of that is all due to that elbow injury the last couple of weeks, probably bringing him back too soon. I would not have been upset at all if we would have just put in Malik Willis even before halftime, just to try to jumpstart things and see if, more targeted passes and a running quarterback. Oh, woulda, coulda, shoulda. Oh, well. Dan, thank you for all of your feedback through the season. And yeah, next thing you know, the Combine's going to be here. So go Pack, go.
Hi, Wayne and Scott. It's Megan. I know it's been a few weeks. I'm sorry about that. Life and the holidays and work, it's just busy. But I haven't missed a game. Definitely not like the ending of the season we would have expected or wanted. Not like that we lost in the playoffs, just like ending the season on like a streak of losses kind of sucks, but there were a lot of mistakes. Basically, we didn't start with the ball the first half or the second half because of the fumble, and then, lots of interceptions and lots of injuries, which sucks. I feel like we really started to feel it with Elkton, in terms of the run game and protection for Jordan. Yeah, I don't know what to say. It sucks, but there's always next year, and, there's a lot to learn from this year. I feel like we're, just scratching the surface. There's lots of potential, for sure, but I have to give some credit, positives to Josh Jacobs, who, never stops trying, and he's amazing to watch. That time he, broke off for that run that he basically went down at, the 130-yard line and broke his shirt and everything. He just, keeps trying and trying and trying, even though it was the same thing over and over again, 2 yards up the middle or something like that. But I really think he's a great asset to the team, and he was a good example of hard work and leadership. I also think Jaden Reed had a really good game, which is nice because he's been quiet a little bit, but Probably not by his choosing either. I don't know how all that works, but... And then the defense, because where would we be without the defense? Cheers to Jeff Halfley. Great first year. Come back next year. Yeah, regardless, green and gold till I'm dead and cold. Thanks for the podcast. It's going to be weird without it, but looking forward to it already next season. Enjoy, take care. Green and gold till we're dead and cold. Let's go, baby. Go, Pack, go!
Go, Pack, go indeed, Megan. Thank you so very much for sending that in. Great to hear from you again. I know it's been a few weeks, but glad to hear you didn't miss any games. I didn't think that you would, that's for sure. And excellent points that there's a lot to learn from this year. I just don't know what it is yet, but the Packers truly are just scratching the surface, and props to Jeff Halfley. Yeah, the defense, huge upturn this year.
Yeah, and I love what she said about Josh Jacobs too, just the resilience and persistence that he has. And I really feel like, even though we didn't see it as much as we would have liked, I feel like that rubbed off on a lot of the other players too. When he does something like that, it's like, all right, we got this. The excitement is there. The camaraderie is there. I feel like he's, the best addition that we've had this season, and I'm very, very happy that he's there.
Yes, and Megan also reminding us that Jaden Reed had a nice game. That was good as well. So, Megan, have a great off season. We can't wait to hear from you and the other listeners in April, right after the draft. Tell us how things went, in your opinion, or heck, you might even go up there because you go to a lot of games at Lambeau. So just head on over to Lambeau for the draft and call in some reports from the field. Okay. Now, let's see who gave us a call at +1 920 3 Pack, go.
Hey, Wayne Scott, this is Art from Texas. And I don't know where to start. I got all kinds of thoughts firing off in my head. I don't mean to be negative nor Debbie Downer. I'm just venting. But I don't know. The defense played tremendous. They did everything they could in their power to make it easier on the offense. I mean, despite us having no pass rush, the defense did a really, really, really good job. The offense, I don't know what happened. Well, I have clues of what happened. Most of it, I hate to point the finger, but a lot of it is on Jordan Love's shoulders. I don't know. I hope, since it's his sophomore year as a starter, and it's a young team, I hope he works at it harder and gets better at what he does. Because if not, I don't know. My Cowboys buddies over here are calling him Dak Jr. Kind of offensive. But anyways, all the injuries, man, hopefully next year they can come back stronger. Another thing I was thinking, I don't know what you guys think, a lot of these rookie contracts are going to start, I guess, expiring. And a lot of these receivers are going to be asking for a pretty good little coin because they are, pretty talented group. So I don't know. And what are y'all's thoughts on Devontae Adams coming back, because it's been out there? But all in all, go Pack, go. Green and gold till I'm dead and cold. And thank you very much for another year of your great podcast. Looking forward to next year already.
Go Pack, go indeed. Art, thanks so much. I always love hearing from you, man. You sound like a really great dude. I'd love to meet you in person sometime. Yeah, already talked about how awesome the defense was, even though the pass rush wasn't quite there. I think we're all looking for improvements from Love next season, and not sure if that's just him, if that's injuries, if that's the O-line, if that's the play calling. Again, I think this was kind of all around. I don't think there's really one person to blame in all this. But he asked an interesting question about, the rookie contracts coming soon. And he even mentioned Devontae Adams. I don't know how I feel about Devontae Adams. It's hard because I hate to be that guy that just, wants to say nasty things about Aaron Rodgers, but he's just left such a bad taste in my mouth. And the fact that Devontae followed him leaves a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth, but he still seems like a good dude. He just wanted to, he smelled what the Rock was cooking. You know what I mean? So, I don't see that I mean, is Rodgers going to take him with him wherever he goes? If he goes somewhere else again, there's talk of him going back to Minnesota. I was reading an article yesterday.
Oh my!
To Aaron Rodgers, just following in Favre's footsteps, which would be wild. Could you imagine? How insane
that would be insane?
I think Rodgers is done, but that's a whole other topic.
Yeah. What was it that Art said his Cowboys fans that live near him said about Love? What do they call him?
Calling him Dak.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah, that's nobody could see this because we're just recording audio, but I made a face like, ooh, that one stung a little bit. What do you think? How would you feel about the possibility of Devontae Adams coming back to Green Bay?
I don't know. I just think, that ship has sailed and he's a little bit older now and everything, but depending on the deal and everything, what if we got him and T. Higgins and Tyreek Hill? Like,
come on, Wayne.
But I don't know. I don't know which one has the most gas left in the tank. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. So good to hear from you, Art. We also got some emails, didn't we, Scott?
We got quite a few, actually, 4 of them. I'm going to read through those really quickly. First one comes from Jay in Southern California. Yeah, and hope you're doing okay, man, and keeping safe. I don't know where in Southern California you are, but keep us posted. Well, that was a horrible game. What happened to the team that was in Seattle? I had a feeling all week we were going to struggle, but at least don't fumble the opening kickoff. Injuries, penalties, and bad execution. Even with all that, we were still close till they threw Barkley down for a 15-yard penalty. I'm still quite proud of the Packers. Enjoyed the season, but we have some work to do in the offseason. I'm hoping the Lions and Bills make it and Minnesota loses to the Rams. Jay, I've got some good news for you, man. I'm actually rooting for the Lions myself. This is Scott talking. I know they're in our division and they're a rival. I would like to see Detroit take it. That's who I'm rooting for. Jay goes on to say, I had to email. I've been sick and hoarse for 3 weeks, so have not been able to call. Enjoy the rest of the playoffs, everyone, and we will talk to you all again in April for the draft. Jay from Southern California, go Pack go.
Absolutely, go Pack go. Also, James from Montana, go Pack go. This just wasn't our year, but I still believe in the Packers. They'll grow and bounce back next season. Hopefully our young players make that next step and the front office brings things in to help us. The future is looking bright. The entire vibe went right out the window with that kickoff. Yes, it's terrible to put the ball on the ground, but he got hit helmet to helmet and even recovered the ball himself. But the league had other things in mind. I still yet have to see a single freeze frame or clip of an eagle with the ball at any point. Once that happened, the whole team's mindset shifted. You could just feel it. The anxiety and tension could be cut with a knife, and there isn't much you can do about it besides just try your best to brush it off and get back in it. But the damage was done. It got the crowd extra into the game and gifted the Eagles an easy 7 points. Our defense played great, made a lot of stops, kept the game close when it realistically could have been a blowout early. The offense struggled to get anything going, and whenever they did, such a gut punch, either through an injury, a penalty, or a turnover. Sounds like the youngest team in the NFL to me. Yeah. I just kept thinking they were just on the cusp of getting into a decent rhythm, but it never came. The injuries to our star players did not help in the slightest. The season's now over. And as I reflect on the season as a whole, I can't help but think back to one of my favorite sports quotes in recent memory. It was from Giannis of the Milwaukee Bucks in a press conference after the first round exit of the 2023 NBA playoffs. When asked if the season was a failure, he said, "It's not a failure, it's steps to success. There is no failure in sports." I'm paraphrasing, but I highly recommend everyone listen to the entire quote. It adds a great perspective to how each season of a sports team goes. This team's extremely young. We should grow from it. I'm extremely excited from what I've seen from a majority of the young guys. The future is bright indeed. And I'm sorry to everyone if these emails seem a little bit long and boring. I've found it quite cathartic after games to gather my thoughts and try to find some positivity. No matter how bad the game looked, I'm trying my best not to add to the negativity that's already so prevalent in online discussions. And boy, Scott, you've seen it. He continues on to next season. Our Super Bowl window is just beginning to open. Go Pack Go, always and forever. Go Pack Go. James from Montana. Thank you.
That was a great email. I love that he said Giannis from the Milwaukee Bucks. He didn't even bother trying to pronounce his last name.
I didn't even try pronouncing his first name.
I can't pronounce his last name correctly. Antetokounmpo or something like that. I'm probably butchering it, but
me too.
I don't follow basketball nearly enough. Good evening, Wayne and Scott. Jared in Colorado. Man, what a tough loss and just a sour taste in your mouth to end the season. Got a few thoughts I thought I'd share. First, I'm going to let the obvious topics out of the way. Matt LaFleur. Two things can be true at the same time. On one hand, it is ridiculous to be calling for his job when you look at the sheer volume of amazing things he's done for this historic franchise and the success that the Packers have had under his leadership. It's also true that there are things that LaFleur simply needs to be better at. His play calling, while generally fantastic, look at those games where Malik Willis started, can also be astoundingly bad. And he put together a string of badly called games these last 3 weeks, so he needs to be more consistent there while also being better at adjusting the game plan when whatever he has scripted gets blown up by a tough defense. Second, Jordan Love. He regressed this season. No doubt about it, but he's still done more good than bad for the Packers. Did the team overpay him? Yes, but what he got is just the market rate for quarterbacks now. I think he's got a lot more leeway given that this was only his second full season as a starter. If he can capitalize on what he does well and minimize his mistakes, we're golden. As for the game against Philly itself, you really don't need to look much farther than the overall team stats. The Packers and Eagles had damn near identical stats with time of possession, yards per play, total yards, and first downs. The biggest difference, and this is why they lost, were penalties and interceptions. Just cannot go -4 on the turnover battle while also committing 85 penalty yards. So where does this leave us? Still in a pretty damn good spot. We just finished year 2 in a rebuild period and made the playoffs in both years with a ragtag group of guys on their rookie contracts. We finally have a championship level defense that can actually stop the run. Jeff Hafley is an amazing DC, and I'm excited to see what he can do, especially if we can get some help at quarterback and edge rushers. Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney were slam dunk signings by Gutekunst. We have somewhere around $62 million in cap space next season, so we can make more splashes in free agency if we wanted to. We were the youngest team in the NFL again and made some waves once more. A lot of the struggles this season stem from just being young and needing more experience. I think the Packers are on the cusp of something special in a very similar fashion to where the Lions were sitting just a couple years ago when Dan Campbell took over. And look where Detroit is at now. Keep the faith, PFP community. Until next time, this is Jared in Colorado signing off. And if any of you are going to be in Denver next season to watch the Packers play the Broncos, hit me up. I'm most likely going to be at that game. Much love to you all, Jared. Jared, thanks so much for the email. Really appreciate it.
That's right. We got to start looking at what games to potentially go to next season. We also got a short email from Dan Dyler, a quick PS. He also wants to give his heartfelt thanks to Wayne and Scott for taking the time out of our day away from our family, except for when Stephanie decides to serenade us, to record and produce this podcast. Suffice to say, it's become a part of not only my weekly routine, but part of my life. If we've been able to cultivate meaningful relationships with you both and the other amazing Packer fans, which goes just beyond football. So congrats on a job well done, gentlemen. Go Pack Go. I can't do it. But thank you, Dan. Thank you, Captain Peg Sparrow. We appreciate the kind words. And yeah, this truly is, and this is how I wanted it to be from the beginning, 14 seasons ago, the show by fans and for fans. And it's all coming together. So thank you very much.
Moving on to our 2024, now 2025 season Wager of Fun final results. Last week, here were the predictions. I predicted a Philly win of 28-17. Wayne predicted a Green Bay win 24-21. The game was 22-10 in favor of the Eagles. I had a differential of 13, which does give me the win. Wayne, I'm sorry to do that to you with an Eagles loss, but it gave me the win. Over on the PFP listener section, Brett Connor was the only listener to pick a Packers loss. So he gets another one. So that means Brett Connor is the official winner of the PFP Wager of Fun with the listeners with 6 wins. 6. That's insane. Wayne and I win against each other just each other, and we tied at 5. Brett Connor went against everybody and got 6 on his own. So kudos, man. Wayne, that means we tied, dude. So
of course we tied. This is the season of ties.
Apparently.
My gosh. I thought for sure that all the Packers need to do is win, and I've got this thing in the bag. Oh, Packers. Well, congratulations on the tie, Scott. And Brett Connor, 6 wins, huge all around 2024-25 season Wager O Fund champion. I'll be getting in touch with you to get your t-shirt size. We're going to work up a custom t-shirt for the champion and send some other swag out to you. Thanks for all of your guesses. You were on fire this year, so we should all keep an eye on Brett next season when he makes his guesses, because things are coming together for him.
For sure. Just a little inside football here. It's really difficult when I'm preparing for the show and I'm trying to make my pick to not scroll down and see what Garrett picked. I'm trying to be as honest as I can and pick before looking at anybody else's. But also, Dan Dyler and Garrett Stritzel tied in second place with 2 wins apiece. And then we had a 4-way tie for third place. David Newman, Jay Walters, David Hawkins, and Megan. Moving on, there's really one big thing to be talking about in the NFL, and that is the playoffs, which we are in. Moving on, there's 4 games this weekend. We've got the Texans at the Chiefs on Saturday. We've got the Commanders at the Lions on Saturday. And then on Sunday, we got the Ravens at the Bills and the Rams at the Eagles. Both of those games are on Sunday. Who are you rooting for, Wayne? You know who I'm rooting for.
I'm rooting for the Buffalo Bills. And
I just the Bills go as well.
I just think Josh Allen and the Bills are fun. Man, this game is going to be, I think, the game of the weekend. I mean, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, all in one game for the chance to move on to the AFC Championship. The other games, man, they're kind of a toss-up because the Chiefs, we haven't even seen them for, seems like, a few weeks, and they're bound to be rusty and everything. So the Lions, I think they're going to win their game. The other 2 games at this point, I think, might be toss-ups, but it's going to be fun to watch, even if our Packers aren't in there. And thankful that we don't have to hear any skulls or Viking horns at all. So the NFC North went from having 3 teams in the playoffs to now just the Lions.
Yeah. I'm rooting for the Texans. I just don't want to see Kansas City in there again. I don't think they deserve their 15-2 record.
True. That's for sure.
I don't think they're that good of as good of a team. Mahomes is great. Don't get me wrong. I love that guy, but I'm just tired of the Chiefs, and not just because of Taylor Swift. I'm tired of the Chiefs. Obviously, I want the Lions to win. I want to see the Bills win. And I don't know. I could see either way with the Rams and the Eagles.
Right.
You know, for our fans over at the 50 podcast, probably pull for the Eagles. They're a solid team, and it'd be fun to see them go with the success of Barkley, because man, what an acquisition he was. Pretty good stuff. All right, it is about time for us to get out of here. But before we do, I want to remind you guys about my other podcast, The Gaming Outsider. We have a new episode every Thursday, and this week is no different. This week, we are talking about New Year's resolutions, which includes taking a look back at last year to see how we did with our goals from a year ago. Those goals include ones related to playing games, and as well as some personal goals. It's an annual tradition that we do. It's a lot of fun. You can hear my show at the same place as you listen to this one, and you can also find our website at thegamingoutsider.com. I got one other thing to pimp really quick. You can't buy it yet. However, I am in the middle of recording my very first audiobook.
Nice.
I have been asked by an author to narrate his fiction book. It is called Last of the Romans. And I'm about a third of the way through it. But I don't know if you can hear it in my voice. I am still getting over whatever is going on in my chest. So I am not able. It's all I can do to be here for podcasting. And I'm not going to get any all the voices and everything in a narration done with this cough going on. So, but stay tuned. My goal is to have that done well before summer, and you'll be able to pick that up. And I can't wait for you guys to hear it. I've never done it before, and I'm hoping that this is a kickoff to something grand in my future.
That would be awesome. I am looking forward to hearing it myself, Scott. Definitely keep us posted in the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook group. And obviously, even though The Packers Fan Podcast is kind of on a hiatus till April. You're still going to be doing the Gaming Outsider every single week in addition to working on the audiobook. So, folks, if you want to hear more of Scott, there's plenty opportunities to do so. Details at thegamingoutsider.com.
Thank you for all of your Patreon support for the podcast this season. We greatly appreciate it. It definitely helps cover the cost of MP3 hosting, domain names, and more. Thanks for making it possible. Jay Walters, as is tradition, Go Pack Go, and thank you for your Bart Star patronage. Mr. Dan Dyler, your Jordan Love level support warrants thank yous and Go Pack Goes as well. We do appreciate it.
Let's also thank our Brett Favre level supporters with some Go Pack Goes. Miguel Ramirez from the Opposites Attract podcast. Megan and Scott Boers. In addition, Go Pack Go and thank you to our Curly Lambeau patrons, Brett Connor, the winner of the 2024 Wager O Fund. Also, Hank Davis from the TPE Network and Joe Christensen. If you're also interested in joining in, all the details are at packersfanpodcast.com/giveback. And thank you in advance.
Before we head out of here, I just want to say one more time, thank you to everybody that listens to this podcast each and every week. I really do appreciate it. Thanks to Wayne for letting me be a part of it for however many years it's been now. It's been an honor. I'm already looking forward to next season. Looking forward to the draft episode. And please, everybody, keep in touch on the Facebook group. Reach out to us on all of our social media outlets. You can find Wayne at Wayne Henderson on Twitter. Myself, you can follow at GoCastScott. You can follow the podcast itself at Packers Fan Pod, or you can follow the Gaming Outsider at the GoCast. And reminder, the Unofficial Packers Fan Podcast is not affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers, but do us a favor, tell a friend about the show. I know this is a bad time to do that, but hey, never a better time to get geared up for next season. Please tell your friends about Packers Fan Podcast.
Yes, please. And I'll probably post a group thread for the playoffs games, or at least for the Super Bowl, for people that do want to keep chatting with each other during those games. And we're going to head on out for now. Thanks again for joining us all season. Here's our PFP community members, Dan Dyler, Andre in LA, Megan, and Joe Christensen, to help ease the blow as we head into the offseason.
Go Pack, go!
Go Pack, go!